This podcast is the first in a series on the chemistry of acids and bases. Acids are substances in our lives that are tart or sour, like lemons. And they also sting. For example, if you've ever had vinegar in a cut, you know what we're talking about. Ant stings, especially the fire ants. That's due to formic acid. Aspirin is a weak acid. It's called acetyl salicylic acid. Amino acids are acids that are in our proteins. Caffeine, on the other hand, is a base. And in foods, bases aren't all that common. So, some properties of acids. Well, acids taste sour, they corrode metals, they are electrolytes, and the theory that we talk about, we say they produce H plus ions, really H3O plus or hydronium ions, in water. And then we have three little definitions that are sort of circular. We say that acids react with bases to form a salt in water, that their pH is below 7, and they turn litmus paper red. Then we get to the properties of bases. Well, bases produce hydroxide ions in water. They're things like the detergents and soaps. They taste bitter and chalky if you ever taste them. They too are electrolytes. They're soapy or slippery. And then we get to those circular definitions. They react with acids to form salts in water. Their pH is above 7, and they turn red litmus paper to blue. Well, with acids, we need to review how to name them, or their nomenclature. And the name of the acid all depends upon the anion that the hydrogen is attached to. If, for example, it ends IDE, we say hydro, whatever it is, ic acid. This PowerPoint shows the word stem. ATE is the ic acid, and ITE is the us acid. This is a flowchart that should help you with acids and their nomenclature. If you have an H and there are only two elements, one of them being hydrogen, you clearly will have a hydro prefix and an ic ending. If there are three elements present, you won't have the hydro in almost all cases. And if you look at the anion, if it ends in ATE, you have the ic ending, ITE becomes the us. Well, some examples will help. HBr. HBr would be named hydrogen bromide if it were a gas, but as the acid, it is called hydrobromic acid. H2CO3 would be called hydrogen carbonate, but as the acid, we call it carbonic acid. Notice the ATE ending became ic and the hydro disappeared. And hydrogen sulfite would become sulfurous acid. Again, the hydro disappears and the ITE becomes OUS. And so those are three typical examples. You try them. What I recommend is that you stop the podcast, write down the names of all these, and then start the podcast. So assuming that you have done that, HI is hydroiodic acid, hydrochloric acid, sulfurous acid, I hope you didn't miss that one, nitric acid, and periodic acid, or periodic acid. Some common bases are, well, sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, barium hydroxide. They're all hydroxides except for ammonia at the end, and sometimes that's called ammonia water, or a solution of ammonium hydroxide. Those are common bases. And here the podcast will stop.